winging wave world champ. People are no one's been able to come close to you. Why is that?
Yeah, okay, whip me into a small one. Get me a little one, and he did not whip me into a little one. It like doubled up. I didn't even know what it did. I like you said, I faded it.
You faded it super hard. It was sick.
So
5
sick.
feet from the beach too.
Yeah,
So
you get to watch the carnage unfold all day. Like, you don't want to go home and rest in the shade. You're kind of there just waiting around for the next catastrophe to happen.
But the line you took, you didn't disrupt that beautiful wave.
Oh man, the nose just went straight into my head.
I had to let a little off. Yeah, I had to cut a bill off. Yeah, but if we be real though,
Mr. Cash, I like the glasses. It's a lot of aura you're bringing into this situation right now.
Yeah, you know, these things don't come off. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, gentlemen, in the Lord Lenny lair.
Yeah, and for
amazing.
those that don't know, we've got the reigning winging world champ
It's the rumor.
2 times. That's crazy. Winging wave world champ. People are no one's been able to come close to you. Why is that?
You know, they're definitely getting close. They're nipping at the heels, but I've been squeaking it out the past 2 years. This year, we only had one event, so it's a little suspect, but we're going to take it nonetheless.
A win's a win.
A win is definitely a win. Come on.
How's the wave that you guys had that event for? On paper, you wouldn't think it would be the most foil friendly, considering it was about 6 inches deep, and half the clips I saw from it were people doing bottom turns, hitting the reef, and just like face planting right on their wing.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely not the most ideal wave to wing, but it's so amazing to watch because it's just a crash edit live.
And it's
so
5
sick.
feet from the beach too.
Yeah,
So-
you get to watch the carnage unfold all day. Like, you don't want to go home and rest in the shade. You're kind of there just waiting around for the next catastrophe to happen. But,
yeah, a lot of guys went home without their gear. It seemed like,
yeah, we went home a little bit lighter than traveling there for sure.
Especially, it's like the most fragile gear you could ever have is the inflatable wing that rips if it barely touches anything, and then a foil that is also will shatter into carbon pieces.
Yeah, you know, I feel like the wings can take quite a bit, but when the rocks are that sharp, and I mean, the foil is like a knife under between your legs. So.
Did you step on any sea urchins? Because I know that point there is like littered with sea urchins.
No, fortunately for me, I didn't get any sea urchins in my feet. You know, I was going to wear booties, but thought better of it. I know you guys would have singled me out if I did that. So, but yeah, no sea urchins in the feet. Luckily, I think towards the end of the point, it was a little bit flatter and had less. So tried to kind of float down and then get out of the water. But
it seemed like previous, their first world title out there, it was a different approach because they were judging mainly on while you're winging, you had to have the wing to your side. You couldn't use it similar to like how you would use a kite or a windsurf sail. And that had a different form of riding. You actually didn't even pay attention to that and used your wing quite a bit and still won, which was impressive. But this year, they allowed you guys to use the wing a little more. And you were boosting like 25 feet above the lip and doing all these sick kind of like, who knew a foil could throw spray? But how was that approach different? I mean, were you stoked that all of a sudden the wing had more options, but possibly the freestyle guys that were coming into the event could like throw a clutch trick now?
Yeah, they completely changed it up this year from last year. Like you said, the first year was kind of like you just held the trash bag and kind of went down, and it was sick. It was fun, but I think when you're able to use the power of the wing, there's so much more opportunity. It's more like windsurfing, and you're able to do a little bit more. Luckily for me, the freestyle guys haven't quite dialed in, you know, how to do a back mob off the lip just quite yet. So it was mainly just big arrows over closeout sections and a lot of slides, like you said, with the spray, which I think makes it more dynamic and fun to watch. So it's interesting, and it'll be fun to see where it can go in the future for sure.
Yeah, I thought that event, it was funny because there hasn't been any sports related event or water sports related event this year that's got my attention more than that one. I think I watched every single heat of that. because I was so curious. It was the first time you guys were able to do that style, and it actually made winging look so much sicker in waves. Like you said before, I mean, it was sick what you guys were doing before, just holding it, but it was almost like, why even have a wing at that point? Why not just get towed
I
in,
guess
you know?
it's cool because there's like a tow in a device, but I think you
actually
have
on
to
a
be able
wave.
to do everything. Like
Yeah.
catch a wave with it down, do an air with it. What equipment were you riding? Were you riding a 3.5 40-liter board?
Yeah, I was on a 40-liter board. I weigh 160, so riding the 40-liter board was kind of perfect for me. I can kind of get up in just about anything that they're going to run the contest in and move my wing size up. The wind's a little bit weird there. It's kind of side off, a little bit more off. So behind the wave, there's almost nothing sometimes. So you do a lot of floating around and kind of bobbing. But I think for the most part, I was on like a 4 or a 4.5.
Well,
was the
wow, that
go-to.
big of a wing, huh?
Yeah, for me, after a 4, it gets big and it gets kind of funky and
You can't
almost
do anything with it,
dangerous.
huh?
Yeah, you like kind of hit the lip and catch stuff all over the place.
And your foil?
The foil, I was riding a medium aspect 625. It's super turny. Armstrong Foils makes an amazing MA foil, and that's kind of what I ride everywhere. That's my go-to, and I change out the mast length sometimes, but again, there it was so shallow on the inside, especially when it was smaller. I went with a smaller mast, and just that MA front foil was so good because you're able to turn it. I can still slide it. It re-engages when you pop out of the water really well, and it's just an overall good wing that I like. So I felt comfortable on it, and what I competed on.
The sliding thing is sick because you're throwing legit buckets on a foil. Like, who would have thought? Yeah, like
That's
a few
pretty
years
cool.
ago, they just go down, load up the wing, and then you release, like similar to windsurfing. It's a very windsurf-esque approach, and you're gouging the lip as if you're windsurfing, but you're planing on a little thing. It's such a strange concept, probably, to people that haven't foiled. You know, it's very abstract in a lot of ways, but that's why it's sick.
It's definitely a weird maneuver, but I mean, everything that I kind of try to do on the wing foil comes from, Kai and all these guys at Hokipa windsurfing, because it's where I grew up and I've been watching it forever. And all the, crazy tricks that they're doing. And of course, surfing has it as well. As like, you want to try to throw the biggest spray you can and kind of throw as much out there as you want. And foiling, you don't really have that option unless you get that foil out of the water, which isn't really, a traditional thing to do. Like, usually you're kind of on the magic carpet ride and flowing around, but being able to take it out of the water and slide and then try to turn it, you get a little bit of spray here and there. You can kind of throw a bucket or two, but it's definitely an interesting maneuver and fun to try to master for sure.
You had one where it's like you power up the wing, you go up to the top of the wave and just lean on the wing, and you slid for, I was tripping. I was watching the live stream. It seemed like you slid for like 10 seconds straight. Was that like a high scoring type of maneuver? Or is it just more of a crowd?
Yeah, what
pleasing
if
type
you're
of thing?
catching a wave out there? What is it, right? Like, what is going to get you the score? What
Yeah.
are they looking for?
This year, since they changed it up and allowed that power of the wing, I didn't know what they were going to do, but the judges actually did a really good job of allowing for diversity. And, when you say they want diversity, and sometimes they don't judge it all that well, but for this contest and the new format that we have, they judged it great. So there was you needed to put that diversity in there of flagging out the wing as well as powering up. That particular ride, I don't think did very well because
Really?
I just slid the entire wave, and it was kind of a thing for me because I just was having fun and just grinded the entire wave the whole way and maybe did a little turn at the end, but it was probably like a 4.
Yeah. So in my head, what would a 10 would be if you started flagging, did a big, I see you guys do those big slaw bears, like without using the power of the wing, which is impressive. And then you land, do a few turns, and then end with your sort of signature, section clearing air. And that would probably be like a huge score, right?
Yeah, that would be big. I mean, if you can incorporate everything, like you said, the flagging out and then as well as the powered up stuff, you're definitely going to get a good score for sure.
Okay.
Well, it was you and Finn, who's your pal from here on Maui. So the Maui crew, there was 8 of you guys that went down there in total?
Yeah,
Something like that?
We had a lot of people show up from Maui, all the boys, and the whole gang was there. It was an interesting
And it
event.
ended up being 2 Maui boys in the final.
Yeah, me and Finn went head to head, and the final was a little bit slow, but we got lucky with some waves that pushed off the reef a little bit. And
How'd you guys, did you just want to destroy him? Did he want to destroy you? Or was it like, okay, let's just, best man win, like, we're best pals? Or is there actually more of a rivalry on the wing tour than what we see on the WCT surf tour?
There's definitely not as much rivalry for sure, but the bragging rights were definitely there. There might have been some shit talking out there, but
What'd you say?
yo, you gotta keep that hush hush. That's not for the public ears.
It was too gnarly. Yeah.
It was too gnarly. It was way too gnarly. Trying to get in his head and stuff like that. But I don't know. For the most part, at the end of the day, we're friends, and I'm constantly hanging out in his driveway looking for food at the end of the day. So I had to be a little bit nice to him. Yeah, you can't be too mean, but definitely.
But it's a game that must be played. You're willing to risk it all for
yeah.
the
He represents Canada. Throw some stuff in there
that's
about
true.
that. Some poutine or just try to get in his head a little bit. And
so besides the event, did you guys do anything while you were in Cape Verde besides that? Like, were you able to go somewhere else, surf, or do other sports, basically?
Yeah, we did like this little downwinder. Actually, Finn did one. I drove him up there, and it was on the other side of the island, and we drove up this dirt road. I mean, all the roads there are pretty much dirt. And we drove up to this point and just did a little random downwinder, and it was kind of interesting to see him scoping it out on the way there because we had no knowledge. No one had done one, and we didn't know where to go. And he was like, I'm going to go to the end point there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to drive on the desert and try to find you at the end. And it worked out, and it was a cool little Misto novelty downwind send, I think.
That's sick. And then Otis was telling me that was it you that you were sick during the event?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We had a house of I think 6 of us. First 2 days were great. Settled in, got some pasta going. Third day, it went downhill. Let's be honest.
Full blowout.
Yeah, it was a full blowout. It was
no.
It was quite tragic. The whole house got sick. Actually, the whole house except for I think Annie and Finn.
They survived.
They survived. Yeah, that was
Jeez.
it. But there was tissues everywhere. It was not ideal. It was
Dang. So it was like Michael Jordan flu game then
yeah. It was
for the final.
Just I'm gonna pretend like I know what that means. But yeah,
So Michael Jordan was a famous basketball player.
I got that. Wait, I'm there.
arguably the GOAT.
He had a really famous game where he had the flu and he just still was ripping. So
that's where he did his best work.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that was
just
it.
Locked in.
We took the dub, so I think maybe it could have been Michael Jordan flu game that pushed it over.
Do you like living on Maui, or do you feel like you need to be like more in Europe to be on this winging level, or is this is where you want to be still? Because sometimes when people want to get into these different sports, the world tours, a lot of the energy somewhere else. Like, any thoughts of moving over there?
Yeah, it's interesting because it is definitely a lot more central to a lot of the contests and a lot of the stuff that's happening in foiling. But Maui is definitely a mecca, and I've been lucky enough to travel around the world and see a few things at the ripe age of 19. And every time I come home, it's really a blessing. And I think Maui's kind of where it's at, and there's no complaints from me. I'm very lucky to grow up here. And I mean, you guys know how it is here. It's pretty amazing.
It's great. Maui's great.
And you always steal my waves at point, but other than that, I think it's good. I'm happy to be here.
What'd you get up to today? Because the wind finally came back.
Today the wind came back. I was super excited to get in the water, and I didn't get in the water.
What happened?
Yeah, I got attacked by a surfboard the other day in the lineup. It's not my best. Sitting with my buddy. We were chatting it up, and he started standing on his board. I was a little hesitant, kind of looked over. This can't be good, and kind of did the wobble, the three-er wobble. And I was like, is he joking right now? I was like, yo. He kind of did 3, and then he leaned back and just, oh man, the nose just went straight into my head right
Oh,
here.
no way.
It's not, it's
Did you get stitches?
No, I refrained, but I think it probably deserved a few stitches. But I put some bacitracin in it and some fresh water.
It's a bit ironic that it was the tip of someone else's surfboard that took you out and not a foil.
I know.
Being the foil world champ. I mean, it makes sense because you're obviously the best on a foil, but still like you're riding a foil every single day.
The one time I don't have my helmet on, it was before I even caught a wave too. I just paddled
Oh yeah,
out.
because you wing with a helmet on, but you don't surf with a helmet.
I know, unless it's really scary, I'll put a helmet on for surfing. But it was like
Speaking
double
of
over toenail.
scary surf, I remember was it last year you came up with Finn to foil Jaws, or was it the year before? It might have been the year before.
That was
2 years
last
ago?
year, I think. Yeah, last March.
Wasn't this year? No, it was last year.
Yeah.
it was
Last
year.
March. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that wave, it was a pretty, you got, I think 2, correct? Or was it 3 waves?
I got
you
2.
But there was the big one you got, you like straight faded it. And I don't know what foil you were on. Were you on like a 600 or something? Or you ended up making the hardest part and then getting clipped at the end. But tell us about that.
Yeah, I've always been a little bit hesitant and precautious, especially going out to Jaws. I've never really rushed it, and I've always wanted to be out there. But the day came, and that was my first time. I've been up there many times just to look at it and see what the program was. But this day was a smaller day, and it was kind of gloomy out. There wasn't really anyone going, and me and Finn rallied and decided to take a foil, and we'll get some at the outer reef, and ended up out at Piahi, and we're kind of scoping it, and Finn was like, "You want to get one? Like, you want to try to get a wave?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, whip me into a small one. Get me a little one." And he did not whip me into a little one. It like doubled up. I didn't even know what it did. I like you said, I faded it.
You faded it super hard. It was sick.
Dude, I definitely should
But
not
what
have
foil
done that.
were you on? Were you on the same one you wing or just...
No, I was on a size down. So it was still like a medium aspect, but it was a 475. So it was pretty
That's cool.
small.
Yeah.
And I think it's the right one. I mean, you can tell me. Your setup
It
out there
looked like
looks
the right one.
It didn't end well.
Well, I mean, I think it's just because you faded it.
Yeah, that could have been user error. The foil worked, but yeah, I was on a 475 and I faded it, which I definitely shouldn't have done. But I tried to steeze it out and be the cool guy.
Looked pretty cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Get the confidence back up. But yeah, I came to the bottom, and I don't know what it is. I've talked to Finn about it a lot, and it would be interesting to pick your guys' brain actually, because whenever I'm on a big wave, and it happened in South Africa as well at J Bay, but whenever I come to the bottom, it almost does a reverse effect. So it goes from a lot of lift, a ton of front foot pressure, to reversing and going straight down. So it sucks down and it wants you to nosedive the board. But that wave, I believe it sucked down and I hit the bottom just a little bit. So it slowed me down just a hair. And the wave caught up to me and just took me out. And I think the board went to the left of me and I flew over kind of on my head. I remember it kind of mowed me. It wasn't the craziest wipeout. Like I didn't get super licked, but I remember my helmet kind of just ragdolling my head all over the place.
It almost like is worse to have a helmet on underwater. Obviously, you don't want to be hit by the foil, but at the same time, like it can inflate with water, and you're like a bobblehead.
It's definitely a trade-off, and I felt that on that wave. And even though I wasn't under for a long time, I came up and Finn was there, and actually the board went into the channel because the foil just has like a mind of its own. And,
Yeah.
you guys know, and it kind of just went straight in the channel. It was just the most ideal wipeout ever, and it looked super gnarly. I think I got sucked over, and you can see in the clip my head or the helmet.
No, yeah, the pink
go
helmet.
over. But for me, it felt like I just kind of got picked up and thrown. Like I didn't know. I didn't get a breath. I had my eyes closed.
I think in the video you could see yourself getting sucked over. Yeah,
I got sucked over, and whenever I seen a clip of that, I've always been like, oh, I'd get a breath there and then go down, but my eyes were closed, and I was just like, please, please come up. So it was.
Did you inflate your vest?
I did not inflate my vest. I was it wasn't like the craziest wipeout. Like it was definitely
kind of already towards the end a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely a rag doll, and I was definitely shocked by it. But
what do you think of your best buddies Otis's wipeouts this year? He's gotten a couple too. They weren't on foils, but he's been taking some lickings lately.
I just think they're great. Because I usually hear about them and see them after I know he's okay. And just the pictures, like I think the last one I saw was him just the swan dive that someone got from the channel. I think he was towing and his back foot slid out. You guys did the podcast talked about it.
Yeah.
And dude, he's been getting really worked. You guys have not been going easy on him this.
I mean, it's more him.
It's
I
right
feel
or
like
error.
he's been put in great situations where he just has to stand there and get barreled, and then somehow something goes wrong for him and he gets smoked.
Poor little guy.
Yeah.
Poor tall little guy.
Poor tall.
So
little
did
guy.
that wipeout you had, did that like make you want redemption in a certain type of way to go foil out there again, or would you rather stick
Well,
to
we didn't
surfing
see you
out
this
there?
winter, so I guess you got your cup full.
Yeah. No, I got like a little day out there. It was super windy and some of the guys were windsurfing it, but it was probably like 12 foot. It was teeny. But yeah, my first wave that I got out there was on a foil, wasn't even on a surfboard, which is kind of baffling even to me now looking back at it. And I made the first one, and the wipeout that got posted first was my second wave. And yeah, I called it after that. I was like, I'm done for today. But yeah, I definitely want to get back out there, and I just didn't really get the day this year, and it kind of, for me, I haven't really put any pressure on myself to foil big waves, especially at Piahi, and if it comes together, it comes together.
Speaking about foiling big waves, you went down to J Bay. Would you say that is? I had not been to J Bay until after you went. Just randomly, I went for another reason to go surfing, but it was incredible that you were able to actually wing foil J Bay, being that it's known for being straight offshore surfing spot. And I guess it's pretty uncrowded when it gets really big, but some of the things you were doing there was insane. Would you say that was probably the best trip you've ever had anywhere? Like, it just seems like it was such a moment, and you guys made a really cool film about it, and the whole thing was pretty rad. I was just wondering like how you didn't break and lose everything, because it was either a slab wave in front of like a rocky point, which I checked when I was there, and I was like, oh, I recognize this is where Cash was winging, and it's very sharky here too. And then obviously at J Bay, there's like a bunch of gnarly rocks on the inside.
It was definitely probably a trip of a lifetime, best trip for me, and I had zero expectations going into it. I didn't know.
Did you know what you were gonna do, or they're just like, come down to J Bay, or were you like, I'm going to J Bay?
The idea was to wing a long right-hand point break, and we had J Bay in mind, and I didn't think it was going to happen just because it's such a major surf break, and there's always so many people surfing it, especially when it gets good. But we got so lucky that it was so big, it was rolling through, and guys were having trouble getting out. We watched it all day, and actually,
how'd you even get out then on a wing?
It was, I think, a mile. We went up a mile to like this beach break, and it was a little bit better. And I punched out to the beach break, got a little bit worked, and ended up getting out, and then doing a downwinder down to J Bay. And I winged the point up from J Bay for a bit that I've heard a few guys have windsurfed, and it's not as good as J Bay. It kind of has a closeout section. And
did you guys film there too?
Yeah. So the beginning, the majority of the big right hand clips in the movie are filmed at that point up there.
It's just the next point up.
The very end, I got like 2 or 3 waves towards sunset when all the surfers kind of got washed through, and it was empty J Bay, and I moved over to.
Were guys tripping that they were just seeing you boost these massive frontside airs?
We got home that night, and there was like a outrage, not an outrage, but just like social media was kind of going crazy. Like all these iPhone clips, like, who is this? What's going on? Like,
they didn't know what was happening.
They were like, what is this weird ass watercraft that's flying through J Bay? It's a foil. Like, who is that? And it was all like these crazy pixelated iPhone clips, like zoomed in.
No way.
It was crazy. And we were just like, the majority of the comments were super positive and stuff like that. But
I thought it looked insane, especially there was this one particular clip where you did a big, deep, long bottom turn. You went really high and you got all this speed and you got compressed and your knee was touching the deck of the board and you were going like Mach 10. And I thought that that looked insane. Obviously, the big air you did too off of the big section looked sick too. But that one particular turn, it was like you're riding this unique craft at a place that's commonly only surfed, but the line you took, you didn't disrupt that beautiful wave. You know, it was just like this. It still looked like surfing though, but it was just this, you're on a different craft. And we had Dave Kalama on recently, and he was really, you know, he backs like different approaches onto, you know, different waves, and seeing that, it just felt refreshing a little bit. And that was probably my favorite single ride you had, because it just looked like you took both the best parts of surfing and then the best parts of winging, and you merged them, and it was on a big wave. I mean, the wave was probably like 30 feet tall or something.
It was a big one, but you know, that's what I've always loved about, and what you have inspired me to do, you know, in my journey, at least through life as of now, is you're taking a little bit from every sport. You know, if you take stuff from surfing and then foiling and kiting and you kind of mash them together, you can kind of improve each one. Whereas if you just do one sport and you're super good at it, you can get pretty good, but you can't take that knowledge, you know, from kiting or for foiling and put it into another one. So that means a lot to me that you were stoked on that ride.
Oh,
and
that was just one. You saw that, right,
Oh,
Ridge?
yeah,
It was
it's
just
insane.
like, it was the coolest thing is when you see somebody turn and you actually come faster at a turn. And a lot of times you're constantly losing speed through turns because you're on edge and your board has a lot of drag. But the foil, you just kept going faster and faster, and it felt like it was just increasing. And I was like, whoa, that was so crazy. And were you on the same size foil you would have been on at Cape Verde, like the 625, or were you on something smaller? Because the waves looked a lot bigger.
Yeah, I was on the 625 because I originally went out because there was too many people at traditional J Bay, and I originally went out to the point above, and it was a little bit smaller and a little bit more doable. It didn't have that huge J Bay face that you know, you're used to seeing. So I was on a bigger foil, actually, the one I usually ride, and the one I rode at Cape Verde. So then when I moved over to Super Tubes and the traditional J Bay spot, I was definitely hanging on for dear life. It was kind of just, you know, everything gripping, the toes were in the kick pad, and it was a hold on for dear life moment. But luckily we got a few waves there, and it was just, it's a weird thing for me to look back at and say that I've foiled J Bay but
So
haven't
crazy.
surfed it.
Oh, you never
I
actually
didn't
got
even get to
surf it.
surf it when I was there.
Oh,
It was
no
like the
way.
last day that we were there.
Were you guys there for like a week, 2 weeks?
We were there for 10 days. So we were shooting up the coast a little bit, the spot where you checked.
That
kinda-
slab wave.
The slab wave. And we got so lucky. It was like the craziest trip because it was lucky scenario after lucky
That's
scenario.
awesome.
You know, like that slab wave doesn't really break. It has to have a really weird direction. And everything kind of came together. So we got to shoot there in the beginning, and then the very end, the swell picked up and got too big to basically surf J Bay. It was just
Wow.
rolling through. So we got lucky there. I got, you know, as you know, the clips came out pretty well. We got some drone stuff, but it was just so long. I've never ridden a wave that long, except for maybe in Fiji, you know, toe foiling, but
Right.
not that big.
Oh, that's another epic place, right? Because you spent quite a bit of time in Tavarua. And did you ever wing Cloud Break?
I've winged small cloud break. I haven't winged, you know, massive cloud break.
It'd be
and-
hard because you're kind of backside, and you tell me, but like I found if I'm ever backside and you're holding a wing, like it's hard backside. It's easier when you're front side, like
Yeah.
to hold the wing, because
It's
you're like,
so
is the wing in
difficult.
front of you when you're backside, or do you have it upwind of you, behind you? You know, like, and that wave's so hollow and fast.
Yeah, that wave is one crazy to surf. So some of those guys foiling it is just absolutely insane. But then, you know, backside surfing it for me, and you guys know surfing backside, it's a little bit harder because you're kind of looking and you can't always see the lip as clearly as if you're going front side. And then you add like a wing right there, just blocking everything. You know, if your little window, maybe you could get a little sneak peek in there.
What wing were you on at J Bay though? Like, what size wing were you? Because it looked windy, but just very offshore.
It was so windy. I don't think I've ever winged in that windy. I was
Really?
on like a 2-2.
No
And
way.
It was so lit. Like,
No
So
way.
it was-
But that's kind of nice once you're on the wave, though.
And then the wave
Yeah.
is accelerating the wind a ton too, straight offshore.
It was probably gusting like 50, 55 up,
No.
up the
Wow.
waves.
No
It was
way.
like, but it was super up and down too. So there was like squalls that would come through, and it would do that crazy gust. And then, I mean, were saying there, even when you flag it out, it's nice to have a smaller wing, but it was so windy on some of the face.
It felt like a lot.
It felt like I was holding like a 5.0 or something. It was just, there was so much drag. So
Doing those airs, was it scary at all? Because it almost looked like you were getting stuck in the air. There's so much wind going straight
You're just
up.
like stuck in the air, just anti-gravitational.
Or you're like, oh, this is sick. This is exactly what I want.
definitely not exactly what I want. I was out of my comfort zone the entire shoot, but it was perfect because I was able to push myself. And yeah, I've never had it winging. I've had it kiting, and I'm sure you guys have had it too, where you kind of get that second pull of like the gust, the updraft. Never got it winging just because I don't think you have really the same amount of power as you do, or the lifting force as the kite. And that was the only place that it's ever happened. There's a clip of it where I hit the closeout section and it closes out under me, and I probably should have tried to land it, but I kind of haired out and went out to the back to kick out. But then another updraft came and I went up a little bit.
Whoa,
and at that second, I was like, what's going on right now? And I was on my wing and landed out the back. And then it has that same thing, but kind of folded by 5 times almost compared to Cape Verde. There's just no wind out the back of the wave.
Yeah.
And then there's, a 5 waves after it. So I kind of start paddling to get out to the outside. And luckily we had a ski out there that was kind of monitoring me, but it wasn't too much use. And at J Bay and at that point up there, it was every wave I was just kind of trying to hang on because you couldn't get back out. Like if I fell and went all the way into the beach, I wasn't making it back out unless I walked a mile or took the car a mile back up.
And you never had to.
Never had to.
Where'd you get in? Did you wing back upwind? Because it was in the evening. It was already like getting dark.
Yeah, so I got my last wave at traditional J Bay from Super Tubes, and I rode it for
just all the way down to the beach.
All the way down, like the longest ride ever.
Did you just hope someone would come pick you up?
No, so I came to the very end, and the thing closed out on me, and I got worked and came up, and luckily I went under the next one, and there wasn't anything else.
Were you have a leash on your board and your wrist? That's kind of gnarly, right?
It is kind of gnarly, and I don't like to do it here, but I was so scared and out of my comfort zone there that I just put everything on in a scramble to try to be safe.
The board is fine, I feel like, but then I've always gotten mostly yanked from the leash, like on the wing, like because it's so much surface area and it just feels like it's pulling your shoulder out.
Yeah, and I've always worn, Armstrong makes this really cool leash for the wings, and it's a quick release. It's just a kite quick release.
I guess it's just on your waist.
So if anything does go bad and my board anchors out the back and I'm getting stretched in both directions, I'll take the wing off and just kind of release it. But for the most part, I feel like winging, for me, I've always had the scariest situations with the board leash because I go over the nose and the board just gets slingshotted straight back at me. So luckily that didn't happen in this session. But yeah, I got worked, came out the back and paddled out a little bit, and the ski got me, and we jetted home and went home in the dark.
Jeez.
Fun.
Yeah.
So there was a ski out there for you.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting seeing you've kind of been on the cutting edge of developing that specific type of air for winging and being able to pretty much levitate and glide across the top of the wave. And it was funny because talking to Dave, and then I was just talking to Brett Lickle the other day too. And I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the Strap crew. They were before you were born, but those were the guys that really...
What year were you born?
06.
Oh yeah, way before. Okay, continue.
Yeah, no. So those were it was interesting because they developed so much stuff, as you know, like the foil, the windsurfing jaws, everything these guys did. And the last thing that was their goal was figuring out how to ride these waves like a pelican. But the only thing is the technology, there just wasn't anything invented yet that would allow them to do that. And it seemed like, I mean, before winging, like back then, it seemed like such an abstract thing. It's like, are you serious? You want to fly above the wave and ride along it and not touch the water? And there's some clips of Rush, and Kai's tried the board too, where they attached, you see those big wings that they attached to the foil board, the old one. And that was what there's, so it was just interesting. And Brett was referencing you as well and saying that is what he's doing now is exactly what we were trying to do those last years that, you know, we were really doing all that stuff. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear because I mean, those guys are of course legends of Maui and of the sport. But you know, I've definitely seen the videos and of Kai too, and the snowboard boots kind of just gliding along on the. Was it made of steel? What was the?
They were
form?
aluminum solid, everything.
Just so
Like
heavy.
those
huh?
big wing things that Rush had.
Well, I mean, no, that's carbon.
Where did they attach the wing to?
Just to the center of the board.
There
Yeah.
you go. The
Yeah.
Pelican.
When what was it like first figuring out that you could do airs off the lip, kind of like windsurf style?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to just sitting on the beach at Ho'okipa and watching all the windsurfers huck themselves over that closeout section. The wing it's a mix between like a kite and a windsurf sail. So the idea was there, and once we started playing around the waves enough, it was kind of just a matter of time. And the wind direction at Ho'okipa or at the point there is just so perfect, and especially when it goes a little bit more east, almost when it's more offshore, it's easier to do those big closeout sections. You know, at Cape Verde, at J Bay, you see that it's easier because you're fully powered up the whole time. A lot of times at Ho'okipa, if it goes a little bit more north, you go to dive that wing down for that bottom turn, and you're coming up into that section with no power in your wing.
Right.
So until you hit it and kind of angle your whole body as well as the whole contraption, you're riding a little bit more towards the beach, then it fills with wind, and then you have that power and able to maybe glide a little bit in front of it, land, and then go and do your next maneuver. But it's definitely an interesting one to play around with. And yeah, it's just something, was trial and error.
Was that there's a clip that kind of went viral of you in Cabo Verde where it was probably one of your bigger airs and you cleared a really long. Was that like one of the biggest ones you've done so far?
Yeah, I had this one session this year before the comp. We got some really good waves, and there's this left. So that point at Ponte Preta is this crazy right that's amazing to surf. We surfed it, you know, in the morning when there's no wind, and it's a great wave. But there's also a left on the other side that just drains sometimes, and it's this crazy left. But it was big, it was windy, and that left was going. So we were hitting this left that was this barreling left coming towards us, and we just kind of hit that section. It was me and Ayrton, just us. The whole rest of, you know, the GK and the GWA were out at traditional Ponte Preta just battling it out, scrapping for waves. And I saw Ayrton sending it in this little corner on this left, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go join him and try a few. And I got 10 times the amount of waves I was getting at the other spot. And yeah, we were just hitting these closeout sections, just sending it. It was cool to watch him. I mean, he's an absolute psychopath.
On the kite.
Yeah, he was on a kite. He was getting barreled on some of them, and then he's strapless too. You know, he hits it and puts the board into the wind. It was fun to watch. Like that wave is incredible. And like you said earlier, it's one of the funner ones to watch because there's so much more action. You know, we had like a contest in Dakla as well as Brazil, and they're great contests, but they just don't have that off factor that Cabo Verde has. So it makes it much more interesting for sure.
Yeah. And then another aspect of what you do is you're not just a good foiler, but you're a really good up and coming surfer too. And you got a couple waves at Jaws paddling. How was that going from the foiling and then this year you got a pretty solid one, yeah?
Yeah, this year we had that run of like it was like a week or something of just crazy swell with no wind, and I got out there and was able to paddle a few, get my toes wet with the paddle board, and I didn't get anything crazy, but for me I was super stoked to make a few drops and see how it works. Trying to sit next to you guys for as long as I can until I haired out and paddled to the shoulder.
Yeah. And then a thing that we always talk about, and I argue with my core surf friends about this, is that I feel like foiling makes you a really good surfer. Because, I mean, you've always been a ripping surfer, but I'm sure you've seen it too. You've seen guys that surf first and they're pretty average, and then they get super into foiling and kind of quit surfing. And then they go back to surfing, and all of a sudden they have really good form. Have you noticed that yourself?
Yeah, I think, you know, again, with all the sports contributing to each other, I think every sport, there's something you can take from it and add it to another one. So I've heard a lot of things of people like, oh, I don't want to foil because I think it's going to mess up my surfing. And, people have said, oh, it messes up my surfing. But for me, I try to switch off and do want to like go back and forth as much as I can to keep it fresh. But I mean, as long as you know you're surfing, you kind of like it's kind of there. I think you can have just as good surfing style as well as foiling style while doing both of them at the same time. But yeah, I mean, foiling is all front foot and surfing is a lot of back foot. So they are quite opposites, but there's a lot of similarities too that you can add to them. And yeah, I think it has improved my surfing quite a bit, especially with air stuff. I can never do air surfing, and honestly, I still can't. But but a lot of stuff from foiling is helping me put it into my surfing, especially in the air section of it.
Have you had a similar experience to that, you think?
I just think being able to do all the sports is a good thing. There's a crossover that's really positive, but I think being able to ride, in order to surf really good, you do need decent waves, and it's not always good even here on Maui. So the foil allows you to just get on bad waves and make them feel good. You can get the radius of turn, go wing on it. I just more time on a board is better than less time on a board. And I think you're right. You do get to a level where the foiling can only help your surfing, and you're not going to really regress on your surfing unless you took like months or a year off, which you're not going to. So intermixing sessions with normal surf sessions, I can't see it being negative. If anything, sometimes like with shortboarding, you can get too locked in to like a routine and it becomes stagnant. It's not as exciting. So doing another water sport or riding a different type of board, even in the surf space, will just allow you to, look unpredictable. But that being said, are you planning on doing any surf events?
I competed as a young kid for like ever, for as long as I could remember, and always did the HSA contest here, the Pohai and all the local ones. And I did nationals and states one year, and kind of just, I got stuck in that grind and was kind of over it, and then found foiling. But yeah, I'm actually, I'm doing a contest in Tahiti. I leave, I think, Saturday.
Sick.
It's like the next day or two. I think it's a QS. So I've never been to Tahiti. So that's why I want to go and see.
Were
how
you going
is.
with just solo?
I'm solo missioning it.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see. I have a few friends out there that like to foil and.
Are you gonna bring your foil stuff too?
Of course. Yeah.
And fishing gear?
I'm not gonna bring my fishing gear. My fishing skills are lacking, to say the least.
Seems like you go out a lot though.
I know, but it's fishing it's not catching.
It's
just fishing for me. I mean, Ridge has done a lot of fishing off the wing, right?
Yeah.
You've caught some good fish off the wing.
It's an insanely efficient way to catch fish. And Austin Kalama kills it.
Dude,
he catches so much fish. Dude. It's the stealthness of it. He could just sneak
He's a
up
stealthy
on him.
boy.
Yeah, he is.
Mr. Kalama. He's got it dialed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, for me, it's fishing at this point. It's not catching, unfortunately.
Wait,
so I'm not going to bring any fishing gear.
So that's the next step for you, is go to Tahiti, bring some wing gear, and then try to compete and gain enough points. If you end up at the end of the year being able to qualify for Challenger Series, would you do it?
It's a good question. End of the year, I got enough points. I qualified. Have to look at it. I'd have to think about it a little more.
That'd be hard because
what would you do if you got in? Wing. There's only one event a year now.
True.
So
yeah, the
you're
odds
fine.
are it probably would be fine. Yeah.
And there's no event when the wing thing is happening.
True.
It would be a unique experience to do the Challenger, and if I thought I could do it, I'd do it to win for sure, and put 100% of my time into it. So it would be So it would be interesting. Yeah, we have to circle back on that one. You've been doing a few of the events, right? You've done Sunset a few times.
Oh yeah, I mean the Hawaii ones are awesome because you get to surf epic waves with no one out, and or actually 3 other people out, and it's great. I think it's just good. You can get a big result, and sometimes you don't, but at the same time, it just, for me, it helps me design my boards, make them better, because you're focused on just that, and then makes my surfing better because kind of any competition space, you're forced to get better because, the eagerness to win.
Yeah. So are you doing it to try, like, let's say you qualify for Challenger?
Well, I've been doing a couple years and haven't, so I'm not thinking about it.
Okay. What if this year's your year?
Well, I'm not going to Tahiti,
Okay.
so I'd have to maybe win. I think they're gonna have pipe again this year, so it'll be Sunset Pipe. Do well enough in those two. Definitely can be a challenger. Probably not. Probably give it to the next guy, but maybe someone like you. If I even
Let
get
me
there,
know.
but you might be ahead of me, so because you're doing all of them.
We gotta go head to head.
We'll circle back.
Pipe heat
We'll
with you.
circle back.
We'll circle back.
What
Fair
if-
enough.
How about if you're, are you going to check out Chopes, you think, down there?
Yeah, if I can get out there.
And
love
what if someone throws you the rope and they tell you to foil like a bomb out there? Are you committing, or are you going to be like, no, let me just stick to the surfboard?
I think it depends on who it is.
Matahi.
Matahi's like, yeah, you're foiling it. There's no question. For Raymana's like, you're foiling this wave right now. What am I gonna say? I can't say no to Raymana.
Dude,
Can't say no to the boys.
the barrel hunting on the foil is gotta be the most terrifying thing you can do.
Especially backside.
Yeah.
Dude, they're doing it sitting down. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
Have you seen
These
these
guys are
pictures?
gnarly.
They're so gnarly.
Yeah, Tahitians are built different, bro.
They're
I don't
pretty
know.
nuts on the foil. They're obsessed.
I'm scared surfing that way.
I know it's too easy for them. They just
Apparently.
stand there getting barreled, so they have to make it harder.
No, they beat the game. They
Yeah.
beat that level for sure. They just kind of it's an airdrop to standing in a room basically,
Yeah.
drinking a cup of tea.
Cup
Dang.
of tea.
Yeah.
Well,
One day
Yeah,
we'll get there.
for sure. And then circling back to wing foiling, I'm curious what you think is sort of the next evolution of it. I mean, I've seen some of your tricks that you're learning now. It's not just straight airs. You're learning flips off the lip and whatnot. But just looking at, I'd say the freestyle side of the sport is probably more developed because people were just focusing on that earlier. But I think the wave side isn't far behind. You think it's going to get as ridiculous as the freestyle? I mean, the freestyle is like, we'll play some clips, but it's incomprehensible what these guys are doing. It's not just simple flips, single flips or 360s. It's like a mash of everything at once. Do you think that's where the wave stuff is heading to?
Yeah, the freestyle now is like it's like gymnastics. I've been foiling for I think 5 years now, and I watch a freestyle comp now. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know. The backflip 360. I don't know. They're kind of out of control, and I think the wave discipline, it's not going to get that crazy. Like it'll get to where windsurfing is, I think, in terms of tricks. Like you'll be able to do some handle passes and flips off the lip for sure. But I don't think you're not going to be able to do a 1440 off a lip and then land back in the wave. But who knows? I mean, someone
Cut
can
to
come
the clip
along.
in 2 years. They'll reference this interview now.
Give Otis enough Red Bull and see where he could go. I mean, it'll be interesting to see in 4 years, see where it's at. But I don't think it can get super crazy. Even the freestyle, like I always tell myself, like, I don't know where they could go now. And then the next comp, there's a new innovative, like a new trick that hasn't been done before, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I remember when we were first learning the early tricks. Like Jeffrey did the backflip, and the next day I learned how to do the backflip. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be on top of this for a while. Like I'm gonna learn all the tricks, keep up with it, and then all these Groms in Europe learn the sport, and then it's just over. That was it. That was like the one time I was able to stay on track was the backflip, and then from there it's just been, I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
Yeah, I mean, fueled by baguettes and tapas, they're just out of control, absolute demons on the foils over there. But those days were pretty amazing. I feel like everything for me has at least come out of Sheer Cove. I've been down here when I was a little Grom, watching you run through the path, stoogieing or jumping off the rock and ripping the boogie board. But when winging came along, I think it was COVID, a little bit after COVID, we were all out there. The Spencers were. I mean, Jeffrey was the first to huck the front flip and
Backflip
the back
and
flip.
the front flip, yeah.
And he was, hockey mask full. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was going out there trying to get my air game down, my straight railies and stuff. And Kai would fly by and just huck a front flip and smack so hard. Do it again. Smack so hard. And it was just, and then finally get it. And you're like, oh my God, it's possible someone else other than Jeffrey can do it.
Yeah.
It was I feel like we were all into it for, a few months there, a year or two. And it was cool to see everyone rallying behind this new sport that it was just, yeah, beginning and starting here.
And it's only, I mean, it's 2019 is when it started. It's 6 years old. It's like, it's crazy.
It's
and where it's
insane.
gone in that short of a span. I mean, there's a whole industry, there's multiple companies that, I'm sure making millions of dollars off the sport, but it's like it just started. And so it's like, you look at the progression and it's like, is it just going to hit a ceiling soon? And that's going to be sort of where it levels off. But it just seems like it's there's so many variations of things you could do because you're sort of free in that, it's different from windsurfing where, the sail's attached to the board. That sort of limits some of the stuff you can do. So you could do like handle passes and stuff as if you're kiting, and then just having the pop ability. I don't know. It seems like to me that it's going to develop further, and it's probably still going to be 18 and under for a long time because you have to be tiny to be able to do those rotations.
Yeah, it's crazy what the 80-pound Groms are hucking in Europe and on all this stuff. But it is such a new sport, and it's going to be really crazy to see where it goes in the next few years. I mean, now we have the parawing, wing jaws or parawing jaws. What is it? Low kiting? What are we calling it? It's still parawing, right?
Parawing.
I mean, that's coming along, but as well as the equipment itself is crazy. It's been developing. I mean, I've been a part of Armstrong Foils ever since I kind of learned to foil. So it's been 5 years now, and I mean, Army Armstrong is an absolute mad scientist. Him and Martin Daly kind of resemble each other, I think, in a sense. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where these developers can go. And I mean, even the Spencers are developing gear for duotone and absolutely killing it. They're on the grind. They're at the beach every day testing, whether that be parawings or foils or boards. So it's super interesting, and I think we're very lucky to be at the forefront of it to see where we can take it and push the sport. But yeah, I don't even know where it's going to go. Is parawing going to be the new thing, or is wing going to be separate? Is parawing going to die?
I don't know. I'm not convinced by the parawing thing yet, but I right now I see it as a kind of I don't want to say gimmick, but side note to that, I thought the same thing about winging when I first tried it. I was like, this thing's such a gimmick, like it's not going to take on. And then the equipment got to the level where it became, and then the boards got small and wearing foot straps, and it was like, oh, okay, this is sick now. And it's probably gonna be the same thing with that, and we're gonna have to get proficient at another sport,
yeah,
which is fun.
The next one's gonna come along, and we're gonna have to try to front flip it or something. I don't know, but I definitely think. I mean, stand up kind of did it, right? It was around for a while, and then it kind of leveled off. And I mean, now not many people stand up. Kind of, you get out on the stand up every now and then. I think I have my old Kalama board that Dave shaped me when I was 10 hanging up now. That thing was an absolute blade. And again, at Sure Cove, you guys would always paddle up to secrets and rip the point up there, and we'd paddle around.
Bust that thing back out.
I know. I'm a little thick. I've had too many Christmases over at the grandparents. Might need to get a new one.
You might need to upgrade.
Definitely need an upgrade. But I mean, downwind foiling and downwind supping in particular is interesting, and the season is upon us. So,
what about for you specifically? Where do you want to take winging? Is it to the big waves and maybe going to Jaws and absolutely boosting a West Bowl and going 200 feet in the air? Is that where you would want to take it, or more of the tech side?
I've definitely had dreams about it. Landing, stealing one of Kai's burritos off the boat, but it is a dream of mine. I definitely think I will wing foil it eventually when it comes around for me. I think foiling big waves is one of the sickest things ever. It eliminates all the chop, and if you can dial in a setup, it's a whole new sport, and it's a game changer. I mean, foiling, like you guys know, it's a magic carpet ride. You don't really feel any of the chop, and if you can feel comfortable on a big wave, you're probably gonna be able to ride the biggest wave ever. I mean, with a surfboard, there's a lot of drag, and it's hard to get down a 60-footer. But with a foil, you want to get down it. You get down it too fast almost.
Yeah, I mean that was the goal of the strapped crew. They thought it was for the biggest waves ever, and you might be carrying on that legacy.
I think they definitely hit it on the head, and nailed it with it.
Yeah.
So
Right. And well, we're looking forward to seeing you do that next winter.
yeah, we'll see if we can send it a bit.
Yeah. Well, sick. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll circle back on the Challenger Series and then you riding a 90-foot wave at Jaws on the foil next winter.
Yes. Let's start at 60 and we'll work our way up. But thank you, gentlemen, for having me. It's been an honor. And yeah, till next time.
Next time, let's do it.
Thanks, Cash.
Thank you, sir.